Luis J. Gomez did the Real Ass Talent Show with Zach Amico, Mike Figs, Jason Mewes, and the great Tim Dillon as judges. And there were a couple things mentioned that I wanted to get to. And this is where, like, I do love... Maybe I'm a hypocrite, because we got a lot of comments on the Tim Heidecker. Remember we talked about Tim Heidecker versus Tony Hinchcliffe?
I do.
And I said it came off as like Tim Heidecker being jealous. And maybe I'm hypocritical here because Tim Heidecker came off like angrier than that. Yet I find this very funny. Like, I think there are things to mock about Kill Tony. I guess it's maybe for me just your intentions, where you're coming from, the tone of it that makes a difference. And we'll talk about that a lot today. That might be a theme of today's episode with one of the other topics we got to get into. Because I found, like, when I listened to Tim Heidecker go off on Tony Hinchcliffe, it felt like bitterness and jealousy. Was when I listened to Tim Dillon and Luis J. Gomez essentially do the same thing. I found it hilarious. So maybe I'm a hypocrite. You guys tell me. But we will get into some clips here from the Real Ass podcast.
Yeah, it's also, I think, a little different when it's your boy, right? Isn't Tony Hinchcliffe like their boy?
He's friends with these guys. They're on the show a bunch. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like there's a difference of, and they know the show, where it seemed like Tim Heidecker was kind of talking out of his ass.
Yeah, he's coming from a total place of, like, sarcasm with it. They're coming from a place of locker room ball busting. And so, there's a little more love coming from the friends, which sounds like hate if you're just from the outside.
Right, well, let's hear it.
All right, yeah, this first one is called Kill Tony.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, welcome to the Real Ass Talent Show, everyone. I'm very excited. Once again, you get to win a pair of golden tickets. I'm excited. So let's just start getting into some of these people right now. I'm going to just call your name randomly. You get 1 minute uninterrupted. When you hear the sound of the kitten, that means you have 1 minute to wrap it up.
This is such an original concept.
Are you ready for the greatest show of your life?
Oh my
Are you
God.
ready for the fucking best night of your life?
What's your Tony impression?
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God.
Unbelievable.
You guys want to be the most fucking entertaining show ever.
Fucking going, yeah.
Just like we learned at the store.
Michael Lair, rest in peace. I want to see his cock from Mary Met Sal. Where the fuck are we doing?
Mary Met Sal.
It's funny because it's actually, like, on paper, it's meaner than what Tim Heidecker was doing.
But absolutely. Were you in the room for that?
I was, yeah.
I think I hear you laugh, Mike. I swear I can hear you.
You very well may. Tim Dillon was crushing during this show. And that's what I talked about when you talk about, like, the price of Skankfest. Like, this is just one of the shows I saw. It was like Lewis and Tim doing this. And I often say this. Like, Tim and Lewis could do the most popular podcast if they just wanted to ruin every relationship they have with comedians. Like the Ari and Joe DeRosa show that I mentioned. If Tim and Lewis just did that, they might be the two best at it. Nick Mullen as well. That's why it's a shame that the show they did together didn't last. I don't know if Tim and Nick weren't into it or what, but they did something called Bastard Radio. Terrible title. But the three of them together have such amazing chemistry. They're the greatest ball busters, and they're not afraid to talk about what fans are interested in talking about. So mocking Kill Tony in this way, I think, is perfect. Yet I do feel like an asshole because, like, 3 weeks ago we played that Tim Heidecker clip, and I was like, what a jealous prick. But he was doing the same thing they are, pretty much. It's just that he doesn't know them and doesn't know where he's coming from.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. That's it. Heidecker's thing was sort of, you can feel the jealousy dripping off of it.
Yeah, but he was right in that, and this is what these guys are touching on, where it's like, it is weird, that, and I get it's working for him, so who the fuck am I to criticize it? It's a massive show. But it's weird, like, Tony convinces the audience that it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. And it's just like Hans Kim comes out and makes a racist joke, and it's not bad, but it is. Tony convinces you're seeing, like, the height of comedy week after week.
He's a great showman. Say what you want about him, but he is for sure.
He definitely is a great showman. Yeah.
This one's called The Story I Forgot.
Oh yeah, so we take a break from the Kill Tony stuff for a second, and Lewis tells a story that I think represents what Skankfest actually is versus what people think it is, if that makes sense. So there's a stigma around Skankfest, but you hear here the people who run it are aware of that and actively try to prevent it. So I didn't run it. If I saw this guy, I'm the one person he could have walked by without getting wild reactions. But there was an interesting character that showed up at Skankfest, and Lewis talks about how they handled that individual.
I imagine you sit next to this guy all night talking to him, just being his buddy.
That's it's not impossible. Well, I guess the skirt would have informed me at some point.
Yeah, Mike, can you come with me, Mike?
Yeah,
Quick.
I'm just having a chat with this guy.
There was a guy yesterday that had a swastika on his forehead. He was just.
I saw him.
No, let me tell you what happened.
I
He had a
saw
swastika on
him. He was like the mascot of Skankfest. It is fun. Imagine just I'm like, this guy's like, boy, Gillis really killed on that show, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, he did. Let's chat about it, friend. Oh, the story he told about Cliff, the guy that went to the Notre Dame game with him. You know, you're just having a laugh.
If that picture got out there, it'd be worth millions.
Well, that's what they were trying to avoid, as you'll hear here.
And you know, fucking Rebecca and Christina running around being like, what are we going to do to this guy with the swastika for? And me, I'm like, all right, I get it. It's pretty funny, first of all. I do understand. I understand why it's comedy. And the guy, so I was like, guys, let me handle it, because I know how to handle it. So I went up to him, I was like, hey, dude, come here for a second. Is it stop here? You had 1488 written on the side of his head. And I was like, dude, you have to give a compliment first. So I was like, dude, I think this is awesome, just so you know.
I like Lewis stroking this guy's ego. Like, listen, we don't want an incident. Hey, you're terrific. Everything you're doing is fantastic. Don't change a thing. Just don't necessarily do it here, if that would be okay.
This is good, but if somebody takes a picture and posts this on the internet, it looks bad for you, it looks bad for me, nobody wants that. We all think this is hilarious. Everyone thinks you're cool.
We get the bit. We get the I'm a Nazi bit. The bit that you're doing with the swastika and the 1488 permanent tattoo on your face. The bit. We love it. We get it. Your kids love it. The judge loves it. Everyone loves it. It's family court. It's a hoot. He's a silly dude. We don't need a who writes blogs every week about us to see your fucking ass.
Just think, idiot. There's no context. We know you're cool. They don't know. It's the rest of the world.
It is funny to watch. Like, there are people that try to do, I mean, that's an extreme example, obviously, but there are people that try to do what Lewis does or what Tim does and fail so badly at it where it's like, why would you think that is okay? Yet it is kind of funny because we're looking at that guy and what he did. Like, to us, it is kind of funny that someone would do that, but it's also psychotic and makes you question that person, you know? Like, it's funny that they would do that, but it's also a wild commitment to make.
It is, but this is, the last place in America, comedy and satire, where you can supposedly get away with anything still. And that's why when we're free, you see stuff like that. When you don't see that stuff anymore, that's when I get worried. So it actually gives me peace of mind,
Exactly. I wanted to play that clip because it made me really appreciate what Skankfest is, where they can laugh at that and be like, look at this fucking asshole. But also, we politely asked him to leave or put on a fucking hat or whatever however they solved this problem.
They gave him a do-rag. The irony.
They were like, hey, listen, we don't want pictures being taken where it looks like Skankfest is some Nazi fucking rally. But it wasn't a think piece. And it's like, remember a few weeks ago, I've talked about this where they didn't come out and go, we completely disavow anyone that would tattoo a swastika on their forehead. Like, they didn't feel that was necessary to make a serious statement about it. They came out, they make jokes about it. Tim Dillon makes a joke about how much the child court system loves it, the family court system. but they don't handle it like they don't feel a need to put this fake PR voice on where Skankfest as an organization completely disavow. Like they don't love it, but they can also laugh about how ridiculous it is at the end of the day. And I think that's why it's such an important thing that Luis has been doing, and I hope it keeps growing and they keep the word keeps spreading. Like I don't know how it's even possible that I've gotten the Skankfest ticket every year at this point, because with the publicity it gets for being the home for comedy, like the one true comedy festival, and like what a great time it is. It's amazing that tickets are even still available every year. But I thought that was kind of a cool story that represents what that environment is. Like for the most part, everyone gets it. There's one glaring instance where someone went overboard, and it was handled perfectly. You know.
Yeah. The general rule, you let everyone in, and then if they got crazy ideas, you make fun of them, and they get ridiculed. And that's the world we lived in, and it was amazing. The 90s were amazing. Let's bring back the 90s. This one's called New Idea.
Oh, yeah, so we're getting back to the idea of Luis stealing Kill Tony and what that potentially could look like. Because it is, we've talked about this before. It is like, I think Tony has done a good job building that into something, but like someone else easily could have hosted that show. You know, like I don't think that was a wholly unique idea. The idea of comics roasting open micers and giving open, like that kind of is what open mics were. Like Luis had done similar things at the Stand. Ron Bennington had a similar type of show. So like it kind of existed before. It's just Tony was the one that was able to hit at the right time. So what potentially, if Luis took that idea, what could that look like?
We're going to keep it going, guys. It's been fun. You guys having a good time so far? You know what? We should just do this. And I should just end my relationship with Tony. He'd be pissed if I just did this as a show. This is the future, guys. Yeah. Nobody wants to see shitty comedians. Shitty talent. That's the way to go. It's a whole different show, guys.
It would be hilarious if you did this and it got 700 views on YouTube. Like, Tony wasn't even mad. He's like, no, it's good. This helps. Tony's like, this is perfect. Usually somebody doesn't do the shittiest version of the thing you're doing publicly. I mean, that's terrible. The people that are walking up here have no idea what's even going on.
This is crazy. Well, we're gonna...
So yeah, I do think it's very funny the way that Luis and Tim like will openly talk about Kill Tony in a way that where like other people are, I don't know, weird about like ruffling Tony's feathers. I think those guys are very good at it. And I just thought that show in particular, I wish the audio was better because I think it's a great representation of what Skankfest is. I got more into it the other day. Like I said, if you want to go check out the full live stream, we talked a lot more about Skankfest and my experience there the other day. But I thought that was one final thing I wanted to address since the show came out. So I also listened to Dad Meat, a show I wasn't at. Shane Gillis and Sam Talent were on that, and I would recommend it for anyone else trying to get a taste of what Skankfest has to offer. I would say go check out the latest episode of Dad Meat with Gillis and Sam Talent. But that's the final bow I'm putting on Skankfest. What's that, Casey?
That video had about 30,000 views as last night. So not 700, but not 10 million. So, you know, there's some room,
somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Room for improvement there. We have a super chat here. Okay. $2 from Darth Nugs. Zach Amico looks like a Ninja Turtle villain. I fucked that up. Zach Amico looks like a Ninja Turtle villain.
Zach Amico is tremendous, one of the best snipers in podcasting history. He's very good. And it's a shame that like when Luis has a guest on Tim Dillon, like they fuck up the audio like that because that could have been a very fun episode. But it's why you hire producers instead of drug addicts, basically. But the people there do a very good job. They run a tremendous festival.
Why can't you be both, Mike? It's done very well for me.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm encouraging.
All right, well, Mike, what would you like to go next in the cavalcade of tardedry?
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me. I did it. Kragers did it.